By the end of this video, you're going to know whether or not you could live a better life in Indonesia than in the US. Growing up, I was sold the American dream. But after living in Indonesia for more than 40 years, I've actually found that the American dream is dead for me versus how I can live here. But of course, everyone's American dream is different. So I wanted to make this video so you could get a real feel for whether or not you could live a better life in Indonesia. Personally, I've found that the lifestyle I have here is better than I ever could have imagined. For example, living on my monthly Social Security is very doable here. Many of you may be in a similar financial position. No pension from a previous job, no income from a 401k, very little in savings, only Social Security to keep you afloat, and then not even the maximum amount possible. So you might be having trouble surviving on that in the US. And you might be surprised to find out that your Social Security could go much further here in Indonesia. And then if you happen to have some income from another source, great. You could even live like royalty here. Hi, I'm Kate, and this is my YouTube channel, KateGypsy. I hope you watch to the end so you can find out, did I miss anything from the US? But if you want to get a drink, just put me on pause for a moment and then come back. But maybe you'd be kind enough to give me a thumbs up and subscribe right away. Well, Social Security is just one short example. Let's take a look at the differences in happiness, work-life balance, cost of living, and so much more. Let's start with the biggest savings, and that's housing costs. Let's jump in and figure out whether housing costs would be affordable for you here. Now, many Americans and other Westerners have their hearts set on living or retiring in Bali. They've seen gorgeous photos of the rice fields and enticing beaches, and they've heard that lots of locals even speak English, making the transition to expat life even easier. And yes, your money will go a long way in Bali. An approximate cost to rent can range from $300 to $1,000 a month, depending on location, size, the facilities included. And yes, you'll find plenty of expats living in Bali. But don't you want to get away from other Westerners and live a more adventurous lifestyle? Why not choose a place like Yogyakarta in central Java, where living expenses can be even lower than in Bali? This is where I've chosen to make my Indonesian home. In the city, rentals can be $150 to $300 a month. Or you can live a little bit outside the city like I do, so that I can have a big yard for my doggies to run around in, and I pay just $100 a month. I'm sure you would have a big savings in housing costs here. But then, what about food costs? We'll take a look at food costs, but keep in mind that this is not the main way you're going to save money. Yes, it's a bit less expensive for food, but it's not the same kind of huge savings as you get in housing. Now, I haven't been shopping in the States for a very long time, so I'm not really up to date on US prices. But I went shopping here yesterday, and I'll give you the prices converted to US dollars of a few of the food items that I bought. A packet of 15 eggs, $1.75. 2 liters of cooking oil, that's 2.2 pounds. $2.50. 1 kilo, 2.2 pounds of garlic, $3. 1 kilo of onions, 2.2 pounds, $1.60. And what about the cost of transportation? Taxis are pretty inexpensive. A 3-mile trip will cost you just under $3, and a 7-mile trip, $5.70. But it's also economical to hire a car and driver for several hours at a time. Shopping here often involves going to several places that usually do not have easy parking. So I generally rent a car with a driver for 4 hours, so I can keep my purchases in the car and I don't have to deal with parking problems as I stop at the many stores I want to go to. A car and driver rental for 4 hours costs me just under $18. That's not per hour. That's for the complete 4 hours, wherever I go. Sometimes it takes me longer to get all my shopping done. If it ends up being 6 hours, it costs me $21.50. But what if you like to drive yourself and you have a car? Well, 1 liter of gas, that's a quarter of a gallon, will run you 64 cents. So you're probably thinking right about now that maybe you should give Indonesia a try. But then you begin to wonder about, what about health care? Well, first let me say that my experiences with health care here have been excellent. I've had surgery here, including skin cancer surgery, followed by many radiation treatments. All have been top-notch. Let me summarize the costs. One surgery was several years ago when I had American insurance through my job. I was hospitalized for 4 days and I was given a choice of room, very inexpensive and sharing with someone else, or private. Now, in the private category, there were 2 or 3 different levels. I chose the VIP highest category room because I knew my American insurance would laugh when they saw the low cost. Those 4 days ended up costing $1,800 for absolutely everything. The expensive private room, the doctors, the medications, absolutely everything. Now, I don't have that American insurance any longer. No problem. I have local Indonesian insurance that covered my skin cancer problem. It costs me just under $10 a month. And so how much did I end up paying for my cancer appointments, surgery, meds, doctors, and so on? Not a penny. Zilch. Zero. It was all covered by the insurance. Indonesian health insurance does not exclude pre-existing conditions and does not have a deductible each year that the individual has to pay out of pocket. So now you probably want to know how my care was, right? Well, it was excellent. Not only was my care really, really good, but the nursing staff in the hospital was kind and friendly. Okay, so now what about services involving labor? Well, this is another one of those areas that is far less expensive than in the US. Take car repairs, for instance. Here's a quick example. I had an old car a few years ago. It broke down in the middle of the city. How lucky I was that it happened almost right in front of a car repair shop. A few young men pushed me into the repair shop and wouldn't even take a tip for doing that. I planned to get a taxi to take me home, but one of the workers in the shop said, "Why don't you wait until they figure out exactly what was wrong, and whether or not they'd have to keep my car overnight. So I sat down, and I ended up spending about an hour waiting, and was then able to drive my car home for the cost of, get this, $7.70. They'd had to replace a common small part that they had on hand, and then bingo, I was on my way again. So if you look at the costs that I've mentioned, you'll notice that housing, transportation, health care provide big savings over the US and can make life much easier for you here. But it's not just more affordable to live here. You could find that you also become a lot happier here. Yes, it's true that not having to pinch every single penny leads to more happiness. But that's just the start of why you might be happier here. Life is just generally more relaxed, not full of hustle and bustle as is often found in the US. Indonesians in most cases are very easy to get along with and make what would be a dreaded trip to an American government office a less stressful outing here, because you'll be met by warm, hospitable workers, people who are happy on their job. I can vouch for this through my personal experiences to get resident permits, and most recently to the driver's license office, where everyone was warm and friendly. Basically, it just wasn't a stressful experience, even though I'd showed up without a particular paper that was needed. Okay then, what about crime? Of course, crime exists here, but you don't have to worry that someone might get upset with you and pull out a gun. From my observations, personal crime that exists here is often not random. Instead, it seems to be usually directed toward individuals who have wronged you. I guess the message about this is pretty clear, isn't it? Other situations that could be stressful? Well, I found more often than not, what could have turned into stress in the US can just be an adventure here. And the reason mundane tasks turn into adventure is that you find Indonesians helping you overcome whatever problem you've encountered. Now, let's talk about some of the biggest cultural differences between Indonesia and the US. I'm sure you already know that these two countries have cultures that are very different from each other. The individualistic culture of America emphasizes personal freedom, independence, and self-reliance. These are considered positive traits in the US, and success is often defined by individual achievement. Personal identity and individual rights are highly valued, and decisions are frequently made based on personal preferences rather than group unity. In contrast, Indonesian culture focuses on togetherness, harmony, and social bonding. Family and community relationships are central, and people are expected to consider the well-being of the group before their own individual desires. Yeah, expats need to adapt to this emphasis on community over their own individual goals. And doing that can definitely take some time and may not be easy, but it can lead to a more relaxed and comfortable lifestyle overall. Now, to be fair, I think it's only right that I should mention, well, a few things that I do miss from life in the US. You know, if I were talking to you when I'd only been here a few years, I might have had a list of several things that that I missed from my life in the US. But now I can't even remember what those things might have been. And after 40 years here, I can really say that there are not many things I miss. One thing, though, is I wish I could run to my favorite Mexican and Greek restaurants on a regular basis. I love Indonesian food, don't get me wrong. But every once in a while, I'd love to get some tacos and refried beans from De Compagnia, or a plate of gyros at Greek Islands. I've learned to cook some Mexican recipes. They taste okay, but they're never as good as they are in the States at a nice Mexican restaurant. And I couldn't even possibly begin to make Greek gyros. Something else that I miss just a little bit is the weather. I've got gorgeous, colorful flowers in my front yard all year long. But every once in a while, I'd love to see some snow on the ground or trees changing into beautiful fall colors. But none of those things that I miss once in a while are enough to send me running back to the US. Life here is truly wonderful. And now, if you want to hear about a few culture surprises I had after moving here, you might like to watch this video here. It's on the screen right now. Thanks, and bye-bye till next time.